Hello everybody. So we'll continue on the lecture about mortality, and now we are going to talk specifically about mortality and longevity in the United States. So let's just go to slide 104 to continue this chapter. And so mortality started to drop gradually in the US in response to changes in the socioeconomic conditions and the environment of modernization that the country started to experience in these last decades. So the main factor that made mortality drop in the country is related to socioeconomic improvements and due to modernization of the society. And much of the mortality reduction started to happen before the initiations of any appreciable public health measures. So it was much more related to socioeconomic conditions than to public health measures implemented by the government. And so just to give an idea how mortality started to drop, because mortality started to drop, then life expectancy increased from 46 for males and 48 years for females in 1900 to 76 years of age for males and 81 years of age for females in 2013. So we see huge improvements in life expectancy at birth, and exactly because of the drop in mortality. So most of the improvements happened from 1900 to 1950. So there was a control of infectious and parasitic diseases, pretty much like the development of germ theory. And basic changes in the society helped for the improvements in mortality, such as boiling bottles and milk, washing hands before eating foods or after, doing some activities that people had dirty hands, so protecting food from flies, isolating sick children, ventilating rooms, improving water supply, and improving sewage disposal. So since the 1950s, life expectancy improvements is due to prevention and control of chronic diseases, such as heart disease and stroke. And one important thing about mortality in the US is related to differentials by race ethnicity. And one of the interesting things is the process that's called the Hispanic, is known as the Hispanic paradox. So the Hispanic epidemiological paradox is the empirical finding that Hispanics have death rates of about the same magnitude and sometimes even lower than non-Hispanic whites. This Hispanic epidemiological paradox is also known as the Latino mortality paradox, and these findings are usually more evident for Hispanics of Mexican origin, and the main idea is that you would expect this the Hispanic population to have lower levels of life expectancy and higher levels of death rates, but actually you see the opposite when you compare them to whites. And so just to give you big numbers, comparing life expectancy at birth by race ethnicity using data from the US in 2006 and 2011. And here we have the highest levels from exactly those years are for Hispanic women. So Hispanic women have the lowest levels of mortality, so highest levels of life expectancy at birth. And then afterwards we see non-Hispanic white women, and then Hispanic male and non-Hispanic black female, non-Hispanic white male, and non-Hispanic males. So overall, you see that, okay, women, they have higher levels of life expectancy, but Hispanic women have even higher compared to non-Hispanic white females. And among males, again, Hispanics are on top, followed by non-Hispanic white male, and then at the bottom you have non-Hispanic African American man. So you see that these differentials, they continue to be substantial across these years, but they have declining in these last few years, mostly because of improvements in the life expectancy of non-Hispanic black males compared to the trends of the other race ethnicity groups by sex. So why exactly, what researchers came out of like some major reasons of why Hispanics, both women and men, they have better levels of life expectancy or lower mortality. So there are like three main groups of explanations for this factor. Data, maybe there is some methodological issues related to data artifacts. There are some migration effects and cultural effects. What exactly are these data explanations for the Hispanic paradox? Maybe there is an underreporting of Hispanic origin on death certificates. So maybe at the time that people die and they report their race ethnicity in death certificates, maybe people are under reporting their Hispanic origin. And then by not reporting that you are from a Hispanic origin, you have lower levels of mortality, not because that's a true fact for the society, but that's more an issue of how the data is being collected. Maybe there is a misstatement of age of the Hispanic population. Perhaps they are overestimating their age at the time that they die, like their relatives. When a relative dies, the other relatives, they might report, they might tell that the person who died might have an older age than what actually the person had. Another effect is related to maybe which of this Hispanic population are migrating to the US. So there is this healthy migrant effect. Maybe immigrants coming from Latin America, and specifically from Mexico to the US, maybe on average they have better physical and mental health than the US-born population, or also than the average of the Latin American Mexican population. So there is this process called self-selection. Immigrants of usually better physical and mental health compared to the average of the population are the ones coming to the US. And there is also the hypothesis of the Salmon bias. Mexican Americans in poor health, they return to Mexico at older ages. So there is this return migration effect that exactly when people they realize they're in poor health and they don't have as many years of life remaining, they might go back to their home country. So that's called the Salmon bias exactly because that's the same thing that happened with salmons, with the fish. And in terms of cultural effects, maybe there is a better dietary practice of Latinos and stronger family obligations and relationships. So, and this is true usually more for first-generation immigrants. First-generation immigrants from Latin America, usually they have better nutrition in terms of making food at home instead of eating food from fast food chains, and they usually have a stronger family support, and that creates a better environment, a cultural environment in which people are raised. But researchers have been also showing that the second-generation immigrants, those that are born in the US, but their parents were born somewhere else, and in this case here, talking about second-generation Latino immigrants, we're talking about those who were born in the US, but their parents were born in Latin America. They start to integrate more to the American society. So they start to eat more fast food and worse. They start to have worse nutrition and dietary practices. So they lose these positive effects from the culture of Latin America. So, but these are all different possible explanations of the existence of the Hispanic paradox. And this is a continued work that researchers have been trying to explain even nowadays. Another important thing about the US is this ratio, is called the racial crossover. The life expectancy at birth is the lowest for blacks compared with Hispanics and whites, as we saw from the previous graph, from previous slides. For most of their lives, African Americans have higher death rates than Hispanics and whites. And the situation changes at the very oldest ages. So at the very oldest ages, there is a racial crossover. In younger ages, African Americans have higher death rates than Hispanics and whites. But at these oldest ages, African Americans start to have lower death rates than Hispanics and whites. So by late life, death rates for blacks become lower than those for whites, and in some cases, even lower than those for Hispanics. So they have lower death rates and then higher life expectancy at the oldest ages. And here we have an example of life expectancy at ages 70, 80, 90, and 100 by race, ethnicity, and sex. So for Hispanics, non-Hispanic whites, non-Hispanic blacks, and broken down by sex for each one of these race ethnicity groups. And that's data for the US in 2010. So when we look at the life expectancy at age 70, we see that among those people who survive to age 70, Hispanic males, they have on average 15.4 years of remaining life above 70 years of age. So on average, they will live up to age 85.4, 15.4 plus 70, and 18 for Hispanic women. And you see that for African American men and women, these numbers are lower compared to Hispanics and non-Hispanic whites among males, and also lower than females compared to Hispanics and non-Hispanic whites. But as they start reaching older ages, then the remaining years expected to live by the population starts to be higher for African Americans, 4.4 years above the age of 90 instead of 4, and 5.2 instead of 4.8 for non-Hispanic white women. And then when they reach the age of 100, then the remaining years to be lived above that age is higher among African Americans compared to both Hispanics and non-Hispanic whites. So 2.5 compared to 2, compared to 2.3, and 2.8 compared to 2.3 and 2.6. But you see that this improvement in life expectancy happens for African Americans really at older ages. So what are the possible explanations for this racial crossover? Maybe, again, it's a methodological issue. Maybe there is a age misreporting on death certificates. Maybe there is an overstatement of ages for African Americans when they die, as reported by their relatives. But this would only postpone the crossover to later ages. That would not eliminate it. So that could be an explanation, but it would not completely take out the racial crossover. So there is another explanation related to population heterogeneity in frailty. Maybe the surviving elderly black population is a more robust group of disadvantaged individuals. So overall, the African American population is a group that usually have lower levels of socioeconomic status, so they are more disadvantaged compared to other race ethnicity groups. And those that survive to older ages, they tend to be more robust, they might tend to have are those ones with maybe better socioeconomic status, better education, and better health. And this hypothesis states that maybe the more frail blacks, they die before the age of 80 or 90. So this produces a more robust group of African Americans that live longer than the majority of African Americans. So that's a possible explanation. And another, so we saw here variation of mortality by race ethnicity, talking about the Hispanic paradox and this racial crossover. And it's also interesting to see variation in mortality by age groups. So here we have the percent distribution of the 5 top causes of death by age group for people between 1 and 24, 25 and 44, 45, 64, and 65 plus. And you see that for younger groups, the percentage of those dying for accidents, homicide, and suicides are the highest causes of death among this age group. For adults between 25 and 44 years of age, accidents is still the highest, but then you see that cancer increases from 7 to 13%, heart disease from 3 to 12. When in the age group of 45 to 64, cancer starts to be the one with the highest percentage. So increasing from 7 to 13 and 32, and heart disease now reaching 21. In accidents, only 7% of this group dying for accidents. And then for the oldest age group here in this example, heart disease is the main cause of death. That's the cause of death for 26% of this age group in the United States in 2011, cancer 22, and we don't even see accidents, homicide, and suicide anymore among the top 5 leading causes. Now we see stroke and Alzheimer's disease. So these are some data from 2011 in the US to show that the 5 leading causes of death, they vary substantially by age group. So thank you very much. That's what I had to talk about this subtopic on the chapter about mortality. Thank you.